Hey everyone, welcome to Value First, the product-led sales podcast, a show where I interview product-led sales and growth leaders who share their secrets on how to grow revenue at SaaS companies. Today, my guest is John Ozuysal. He's the head of growth at Optimonk, a smarter way to increase conversions on your website. John has been a leader and a head of growth 3 times already in his career, and advises tons of startups on marketing and growth. John, how are you?
I'm good, man. The surname game was quite good. Like you exactly pronounced my name how I would.
Good. That was stressful. Hell,
Yeah,
that
it
was stressful to pronounce your name
was
well.
pretty good. It was pretty good.
Super excited to have you on. I think it'll be an interesting conversation because a lot of product-led growth startups are based on marketing to generate traffic to their website, and you're an expert at that. So I think it'll be a great conversation. Let's just start with explaining what Optimonk does and what you do at the company.
Yeah, sure, man. So what Optimonk does in a very simple way, we basically help Shopify merchants to increase their conversions on the website by providing them with a tool that they can use for creating pop-ups. So we, in short, we help Shopify merchants, e-commerce merchants to drive more revenue.
Okay, interesting. And what do you do at the company? What's your role?
I am head of growth. I'm basically responsible for growing company mostly from organic channels. Sometimes I do help the paid side as well, but it's not my strength suit. I try to create the content strategy, draw the right traffic in, and then push people down to the content funnel, and then create conversion optimized pages so that we can have more inbound leads and increase the MRR.
Cool. Cool. What do you think? What do you think is changing? Before we get into the details of building a content strategy and driving traffic to your website and a lot of stuff that I want to talk about, what do you think is changing around product-led growth, around content right now, around everyone trying to produce their content? What cool shift that you see happening right now that you think people should be aware of?
Mhm. The one thing that I see from the content side is I think B2B companies started to understand how valuable it is to build a brand on social media like LinkedIn, especially after the post-COVID. The pre-COVID, I didn't really see a lot of B2B companies producing value-added content on LinkedIn. But post-COVID, I see a lot more companies, B2B SaaS companies, producing content on LinkedIn and trying to build their brand. I think people started to understand that when you build a brand, you're basically building a moat. And when you have a strong brand, everything becomes easier for you, right? Demand generation becomes easier for you. SEO becomes easier for you. Doing sales becomes easier for you, I think. And people start to really realize this.
Yeah, and we see it with wanting to relate to brands, right? We see what's weird is I see shifting like the actual content goes through the founder or the individuals, and then the company itself is really like humanized in a way that they post like Gong, it's super relatable, memes on the page, and then the more like actual content gets shared out by the actual employees. I think Lemlist is a great example of that too, of the founder and all of their employees really building their personal brand. So that's an interesting shift. I'm obviously trying to play that game. I post a lot of content.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Shout out to Lucas, and he's a good friend of mine. But yeah, I mean, there's a shift towards publishing from the personal account than a company brand, right? Because nobody wants to read a content from a company account. Most of the times, people think that if you're doing this good,
Yep.
then people would love to consume content, just like the Gong example. But what most people are doing is that they take this blog post, give it, share it as a link on LinkedIn, and then expect to get some traffic. No, because most of the time people will think that if you're sharing something on a company account, it's probably biased. You're probably going to try to sell me your product. But when you share something from your personal account, then it's most likely that people will read and be interested in what you're sharing, because it could be a personal story, and people love to resonate with the personal stories.
Yeah, I want to dive deeper on that because that's super interesting, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around and improve. And you give me advice. going from a personal post that is relatable to, I mean, at the end of the day, you want to drive traffic to your site. You want, there's some goal to the content that you post.
Mhm.
What are some quick tips that you would give to people trying to post stuff that is personalized, relatable from maybe their personal page, but still want to drive that traffic? A good example of that is like in a Reddit post. You don't want necessarily to add your link, but you
Mhm.
still need the traffic. What are your thoughts on that?
First of all, I would say don't push links to your posts. If we're talking about LinkedIn, again, like a good example is HubSpot Gong. Most of the times, you're not going to see any links. They just they know what their audience wants, and based on that, they create the content specifically for LinkedIn. So instead of just treating LinkedIn as a distribution channel, they treat LinkedIn as a platform on its own. And it's also because like people, if people are on the LinkedIn, they don't want to go to another platform to consume that content. Just give the content at the right time to them, right? Um, so that's one thing. The other thing is that I talk about this a lot, about the content distribution on a platform like Reddit or in any other relevant forums, right? What most of the times people do is that they just go there, they just take that blog post from their website, go there, hey guys, like I have this content, and then here I'm dropping the link, and then what happens next day? You're banned, right?
Yeah.
People don't want you to just join a subreddit and then spam them with the links. And that's not the right way of doing it. What I would recommend there is to just find the relevant forums for your niche, whether it's the marketing forum or e-commerce forum or product management forum or PLG forum. Just find the right forums and then join them. Once you're there, don't put any link before you do some of the small tasks that I'm going to give you right now. So if you join this forum for the first month, at least try to give like 20 to 25 helpful replies to the existing threads. Okay. So that's going to help you to build some credibility inside the forum, right? Once you do that, task one completed. You can check mark it. So then the second task would be, all right, now it's time to open new threads, right? So you need to open at least in the first month, at least like 2 to 3 new threads. And those threads are going to be value added threads, right? You're not going to promote anything about your company. So once you're done with that, so your first month, you've already given like 25, 30 helpful replies, and you didn't link back to your website, right? Nothing at all. And then you also created like 2 to 3 helpful threads in that month. All right, now it's time you can do marketing in that forum. Now people know that you're not just there to do a shameless plug. You help people, right? Now you can also do marketing because you should not be afraid of doing marketing of your own brand in the forums, but you just have to know the right way of doing that. And then right way of doing that is how I described it, right? After you do all those things that I mentioned, now you can go back to your blog post. You can take that blog post and then repurpose it for the forum. Just play with the text a little bit, and then at the end of the post, you can say, this post was originally posted on XYZ website, right? That's how I would drive traffic if I wanted to drive traffic from communities and the forums.
Okay, interesting. So you would interact with the sub forum or the sub community first, 25, 30 interactions, value add, and then you would repurpose the post in a thread, giving out all of the value in the thread, and
Yeah.
just linking back to your website saying, hey, like the original post is on XYZ dot.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. I mean, you can't just go out there and then it's not a Twitter or Facebook, right? Day one, you cannot just post whatever you want to post. It's on Twitter or Facebook. It's a forum. There are other people there, and it's a tight knit community, right? They don't want spammers. So first, you need to build your credibility. Once you build that credibility, you can do marketing. That's how I've been doing it. That's what worked for me. Over the past several years, I banned from Reddit so many times, but finally I found the right formula to do it, and this is how I do it.
What about LinkedIn? How would you take a similar approach?
LinkedIn, yes. Generally, what I try to do, like if 25% of the posts that I'm posting on LinkedIn, you will see a link to a website. But 75% of the times, I'm not going to post any links for a couple of reasons. First reason, LinkedIn algorithm wants to keep the readers inside its own platform, right? So if you do include a link in your body text and in your post, LinkedIn algorithm is going to disfavor you. It's just how I think. I've been experimenting. I use Shield. to track my LinkedIn analytics, and every time I put a link into my post, my reach goes down. So if I want to put a link, I just say you can check the link in the description, in the comments. Sorry, and that's a
Mhm.
better way of doing. If you're going to put a link, that's a better way of doing it. But generally, I don't like the post links on LinkedIn because it looks salesy, and I just don't want to do that. If you're producing a good content, this is what I think. If you're producing a good content, people will find what company you work for. People will do find your website, right? So I don't think that there's reason to put a link there.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Um, Speaking about mistakes, because you posted recently about the biggest mistakes you've had when you
Yeah.
started being a growth marketer and a marketer in general, and I want to get our listeners some of the value that you posted there. Obviously, I'll add the link to your LinkedIn because you constantly post on there really really good tips. But what are some of the biggest mistakes that you've made that, for example, now you're like, I wouldn't do that ever again? I
Yeah.
learned from my mistakes.
Okay. There are a couple of them. Let me just think about which one I should start with. Okay, the biggest one. I think it's going to be classic, but I cannot emphasize this enough. Talking to your customers. Early on in my career, I thought that I was doing growth marketing, right? But then I realized that I was doing guest marketing because every time I launched a marketing initiative, every time we launched a product feature, those things were based on what me and the rest of the team wants. And we thought that,
Yeah.
okay, like, oh, this is a cool feature or this is a cool content. I am pretty sure that other people will adopt it. No, right? You have to validate it. You have to talk to your customers. And I didn't talk with my customers. I just did everything on guesswork, right? So I would definitely talk with the customers. Like, if you can spend like an hour or 2 hours every week to talk with the customers that you have, it doesn't matter. Like, if you have like five customers or 10 customers, you can do talk with your customers. If you don't have any, if you're still not at the product market fit stage, just find the customers of the competitors and just try to get a call with them so that you understand, um, why they're using your product or your competitor's product, what triggered them to look for a solution like that. How do they do the research, right? You're looking for a solution right then, but what influenced you to go for XYZ product? Or how did you do your Google search? How did you do your review before either being a customer for me or customer for a competitor, right? And then based on all of this, I would do a buyer journey map, because you need to understand how people are looking for you, what channels they're using, what keywords they're using, right? And what are their motivations. If you don't know any one of these things, you are doing a lot of guesswork and you're not going to convert, and your messaging and your content is not going to resonate with anyone.
Yeah, that's really insightful, and it ties to the next question I wanted to ask because one thing I think is, first of all, it's underrated for marketing to talk to customers. I mean, sales do it, product do it sometimes, founders obviously do it, but for marketers, that's great advice. But honing in a bit deeper on, you've described the process of understanding the buying journey and the lead journey. One thing that I'm struggling with a lot is deciding what to focus on in terms of building my marketing from the ground up, starting to build marketing engine, a content engine. There's so many things that I can do, so many communities that I could focus on, so many content. So I want to get like your point of view on, you're an early stage SaaS, you're trying
Mhm.
to get the marketing ball going. How would you go about starting, and how would you decide as a founder, as the first or second marketing hire, what should I focus on in all the 100 things that I can do marketing wise?
First of all, I would ask, is the startup ready for marketing? Because oftentimes founders would do the marketing early on. You don't have target persona. The product is not working properly. You don't have PMF, and then you're focusing on the marketing. That would be early. Do you have, like, it depends. Do you have paying customers? Do you have like 5 to 10 paying customers already, or you're still at the MVP stage? It depends on your stage. Like, for your example, what is the stage that we're talking about?
I mean, for us, it's early customers trying to drive more signups to the site. But I think
Mhm.
it's a question worth asking for any startup below the like Series A stage of
Okay.
still trying to get the ball going. Maybe the founder has done the marketing at first, but then first hires, or really starting to get more than just the founder writing blog like
Mhm.
once in a while?
Okay. So first of all, I'm assuming that we have some paying customers since we're early, either like previous, either we're seed stage or pre-series, right? I'm assuming that we do have some paying customers. So what I would do, first and foremost, I would do customer research, right? I need to understand how those people came to me, like what triggered them to look for a solution like me. And I need to, I would do this journey map, and I would separate it into awareness stage, consideration stage, close stage, delight stage, right? And there, for each stage, I would try to understand who are the key stakeholders. Oftentimes, sometimes, you think that your audience are product managers, right? You're selling to them, but at the awareness stage, it's the analytics guys who realize that, oh, there's a tool like that, so I'm going to bring it into the company. And at the consideration stage, product manager come and close the deal, right? So for each stage, I would try to understand who are the key stakeholders, let's say at the awareness stage, and then what influences them to make a decision, right? We are all influenced by some things, right? Maybe you are influenced before you make a product decision. You are influenced by a word of mouth from a friend, or from a referral from a venture capital, or you're just like very much G2 guy. I would go to G2 and find the reviews, right? If they don't have G2 reviews, I'm not going to go for them, right? So you need to find what influences people. And then after that, I would try to understand what kind of questions people are asking at each stage. Like what kind of questions people are asking at the awareness stage, what kind of questions people are asking at the consideration stage. And then once you figure out all those questions and how you're going to get all those questions, that could be other question. You have to talk to your customers, right? When somebody is at the awareness stage, for example, looking for best product management tool. And if this person just looking for a product management tool, but didn't really compare other product management tools with your product management tool, I'm just saying product management tool as an example.
Yeah.
Um, then at this stage, you need to ask this person, like, what kind of questions you have, right? Um, what is a product management tool? Why should I use it? How would I use it? How would it benefit to my organization? What are the questions that your prospects are having at this stage? And then after you figure out all those questions, what kind of answers, what kind of content I can produce for those questions, right? And then if you can do a keyword research on those questions, if there's a keyword volume on those questions, that would be good to include in your sheet. But if you don't, you just have to understand what kind of questions are being asked at each stage, so that you can produce the right content and right content type for converting people. I don't know if it was confusing, because like I've been doing this for some time. Maybe I didn't really do a good job of explaining, but to summarize, just try to understand your customers, what triggered them to look for a solution like yours, what kind of questions they're having, and then try to create a content based on those questions early on, right? Bottom of the funnel content. I
Yeah.
wouldn't go and I wouldn't go and target top of the funnel at the early stage, because you don't really have the resources and time, because you don't have a couple of years to get your first 20 or like 100 customers. If you wait a couple of years, you could be a zombie company, and nobody wants that, and no VC likes that.
Yeah,
So early
that
stage.
that's interesting. That's interesting. And I just want to stop you there for 1 second, because I want to summarize, because we'll get into actually writing the content, because that's the next question I want to
Mhm,
ask. So you're saying map out your lead journey, map out the journey of your prospects through different stages that you mentioned, awareness, etc. And understand what questions they're asking themselves and how they're searching, whether by asking questions to your customers or by doing keyword research. And then once you find some topics that you think you should write about, that
mhm.
they care about, based on those answers, you
Yeah.
start writing the content. Okay, now in terms of starting to write content, because that is also a big question mark for some people, because you can write a bunch of stuff. The two things that I think we should dive deeper on is what content could would you write, because you just said top of funnel versus end of
Mhm,
funnel, long tail, short tail, etc. So that would be the first one. And then how would you make it actionable? It's easy to write content, but good content that people like to consume and is actionable. So
mhm,
I think we can go back to that, but let's start with what how would you evaluate what to write on at first to get those early wins?
Again, like it depends on the goal and the stage I'm at. So if I want to get early wins, I guess you want to make some money, get some MR. And what I would do if I was an early stage B2B SaaS company, I would focus more on bottom of the funnel content, right? So what I would do if you have customers paying, get those case studies out, right? Show people how did you help customers, right? So if you are again going after product managers, and if you have case studies, detailed successful case stories on how did you help, you know, product managers achieve XYZ results, get them out and distribute them, right? So instead of just focusing on top of the funnel content, I know that a lot of founders are doing this. Like, all right, let's focus on the top of the funnel content, right? Because it's easy. The keyword difficulty is 10 there, like long tail keyword. Let's go for it. Like, oh, there's a decent volume there too. Yes, that's nice. This is great on the paper. But if you're a late stage startup, um, you cannot afford that. Why? It's because oftentimes people think, let's go for top of the funnel, right? Let's target unaware people. And then with our content, we can take them from unaware stage, we can make them aware, and then we can take them into consideration state. Yeah, well, that sounds great. But in reality, it never happens that quick. Oftentimes, it takes some time to fill that gap, right? And when you're early stage B2B company, why do you focus? Your goal is to find the product market fit and then get some quick wins, as you said, right? You want to get some revenue in. Then why do you focus on unaware, like completely cold audience, and then try to nurture them while there are already people with that problem searching for a solution like yourselves? Why you're not focusing on there? Oftentimes, I see that the problem here is because low low search volume, right? If you focus on this high intent keyword, you're not going to see search volume. Sometimes you're just going to see like 20 search volume, and then founders will say, all right, at 20 search volume, it's not that much. But I would rather have this 20 search volume keyword with high intent than top of the funnel content with thousand search volume with low intent.
Can be
So
dangerous too. I agree completely with you. It can be dangerous even if there's low volume for top of funnel keyword and you think you can rank for it quickly. As an early stage startup, pre-product market fit, or like starting to have product market fit, can be dangerous because there's a lot of education to do at first. So you're trying to get someone from completely cold, unaware of the problem, the situation, to like through the full journey, but without having the resources to support all of those stages. So I think that's super smart. So you would go bottom of the funnel. You would drive use cases, some stuff that is really, really actionable and shows the value. And you would also look for more high intent, like company name versus a competitor, or best tools for
yeah,
really niche kind of things.
if your tool is a kind of tool that people are searching for, like if no one is searching for it, then there's no point of going for SEO. But for the bottom of the funnel content, I would try to invest in alternatives, right? Alternatives articles, versus articles, XYZ product versus, or best, whatever your category is. Like, let's say again, the product management, best product management tools for startups, best product management tools for edtech companies. Okay. And how are you going to understand what are those like high intent volumes, like keywords that you need to focus on? Again, it all goes back to the customer research. Like, you have to ask people, what did they search? If they did a Google search, if they came to you through organic, what did you search? How did you look for a solution like us? And you need to understand the keywords they're using. Don't do this thing, because I've done this before. Sometimes you're going to ask your customers, and how did you do the organic? How did you do the Google search, right? And then you're just going to say, oh, I just Googled this term. And then you're going to take this term and then put it into Ahrefs or SEMrush, whatever it is that you're using. And then you see, oh, like zero volume. So I shouldn't really focus on this. Don't do this mistake. Just because you don't see a volume doesn't mean that there is no search volume for that.
True.
Just write content on that topic. And I was just having this conversation with she's a great SEO expert, and she actually gave me some stats, like 15%, like 15 or 20% of those like low volume, high intent queries are not appearing on the search keyword search tools. So don't do the same thing that I've done before. If your customers are saying that this is how I found you and this is the query I used on Google, just write content on it. Just don't trust keyword research tool 100%. Just write your content on it.
Interesting, interesting. Okay, so now you have a better idea as to what content you want to write about, what subjects you want to write about. A few posts that I saw on your LinkedIn is how to make it actionable, and I think that's a superpower in marketing,
Mhm.
in terms of, like, you everyone can write information about anything, but the way you write it can have a huge impact on your reach, on your traffic, etc. And I know that we could get like a full hour to describe like how you would
Mhm.
actually do it in details, but we have a few minutes left. Any quick tips on how to make your content
Yeah.
more actionable, change, adjust the way you write, etc.?
Yeah, there's one thing that I would do, and this is good, especially for early stage startups with little budget for content marketing, right? If you want to make an actionable tip, you have to find subject matter experts. You cannot just go to Fiverr and find a writer for like $50 and ask him or her to write something on conversion rate optimization, or I don't know, like product management. That person can write, but it's just going to be copy and paste content because he or she is not the subject matter expert, right? You need to find an expert. It's just like you want to write about plumbing, right? But then instead of going to plumber and interviewing plumber and then take that interview and put it into a paper, you just go to a Fiverr and say to a generalist, can you write me an article on plumbing? Well, that's going to be generalistic and it's never going to be actionable. So what I would do, I would use journalism approach, right? Stop copy and paste. Stop doing copy and paste content. Um, Try to get expert opinions. Again, let me give a practical example. So let's say that you want to write about how to decrease your cost per click and how to decrease your Facebook cost per click in 2022, right? Don't go to Fiverr and ask generalists to write that. There's a better way of doing that. Take the journalism approach. So let's say that for this sake, your target audience are marketers, right? So you want to reach out to marketers. And also the topic that you're writing on, you can ask expert quotes from the marketers because it's about the Facebook and decreasing cost per click. So what you can do, go to LinkedIn, find the experts, find the right people, performance marketers, right? Just reach out to them and say, hey, I'm writing a roundup article about how to decrease your cost per click for Facebook in 2022. And I would really love to feature you in my article. I need your expert opinion, right? And you frame it as, I really need your expert opinion. Everyone likes their ego to be patted, right? You're
Yeah.
gonna come to me and say, like, hey man, like I really need your expert opinion. I'll be like, yeah, I'm this expert. Sure, of course. What do you want? So when you do that, you're actually achieving two things. The first thing, you actually did the cold outreach. And marketers are your audience, right? So instead of spamming that person to get a demo, you actually reached out to this person, not selling your product, but asking for a quote or expert opinion. And then you send Google form or another tool of your preference and say, can you briefly describe um, what worked for you over the last 6 months that decreased your cost per click on Facebook? Like, get a paragraph. So if you do that to 10 or like 20 marketers, what's going to happen is that you'll be introducing your brand to your target audience. It's a warm outreach, it's not a cold outreach,
Yeah.
right? And then you will have this actionable pillar content written by subject matter experts. So after you get all these paragraphs, then you can put everything into a Google Doc and then you can give it to your editor or writer to polish it, to make it look better. On top of that, if you have the subject matter expert, just take what the other experts are saying and then give your unique view, unique angle on it. Here are what the 25 experts are saying, and here is what we think about it. Because people want unique content, right? People don't want content written for robots. So this is the approach that you can use. Also, when it comes to distribution, when you create a content like this, like what I've just explained, your distribution network is kind of ready. Why? When you ask your contributors to, like, when you go to your contributors and say that, hey, the article is live, thank you for the contribution, the party is going to start. Everyone is going to start distributing this, saying that, hey, I've contributed this article for XYZ company, here it is, right? And when all of your contributors, not even all, like even 50% of your contributors do the same thing, you got some distribution game going on there. So it's a distribution ready content. And you, congratulations, because you've just created actionable content written by subject matter experts, and you didn't pay like $4,000 or $5,000 to write this article.
Yeah, and you build relationships in
Yeah,
the process, and you're increasing your distribution because as an early stage SaaS at the start, you won't be viral, you won't have tens of thousands of followers. So contributing with others, I think that's super super smart
yeah,
because you're building better content. It's more actionable. You get your opinion on it, but also it builds your distribution channel at the same time.
yeah.
Before we wrap it up, quick like distribution tips that you think are worth thinking about for 2022 as we approach the end of the year.
Um, well, yeah, there are a couple that I can give. The first one is you can do outreach. I mean, I generally don't do outreach, but if you, it's not for all the content you create, right? If you have this unique piece that you believe that it's really value adding and actionable, you can find your audience. If you're writing for product managers, you can find them on LinkedIn and say, "Hey, we've written an article on XYZ topic, and we would really like to share it with you. Would you be okay with that?" Just don't put the link there. Just get the yes so that you're not spamming those
Mhm.
people, and then just shoot it to them. You can do the same thing for email too. Find the product managers. Send them like ask their permission before you put a link. Because if you don't ask their permission and just send a link, it's a spam, right? People hate this kind of stuff. So that's one thing I would try. Um, and the other thing I would do, use Facebook ads for your content, right? What I would do again, when you have this great content piece ready, just publish it. Once you publish it, put it on Facebook. Ask your internal team, go and engage and like it, right? So you're building some social proof here. Nobody likes to see a content that got like 0 likes. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
go for
nobody
it.
likes to be the first one. See
Yeah,
the first comment. It's I don't remember. There's a psychology term there, but if there's like one or two comments where you already see some
yeah.
engagement, you're like three times more likely to actually engage if you wanted to, but you wouldn't if it was like empty. But
Mhm.
yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah. So, but we're not going to stop there, right? Let's say that you have 20 people inside the company. Make sure that each one of them likes and engages with the content on Facebook. And after that, we are going to promote it. We're going to promote it, but we're not going to promote it to US audience or UK audience or like Germany, because those audiences are expensive, especially US. So what we want to do, we want to build more social proof. So we are going to promote our article in Latin countries, Asian countries, because cost per click is lower in those regions, right? So we're building more social proof now. Why? Because Facebook algorithm loves social proof. So once we get some social proof game in, and then we take this article back, and then we promote it to US where our audience is, right? And this way, your costs will be a lot lower compared to if you just sent out this article for promotion without getting some social proof in. So that's
That
another thing I would do.
That's super smart, man. That's super smart. I feel like I even though if I don't know how many people will listen to this, but I've just learned like a ton just from hearing you myself and asking you a question. That's amazing.
Thanks,
I
man.
think it's
Thanks.
time to wrap up though, because you're a busy man. I need to leave you alone. But before I do, I'm gonna shoot 4 quick fire questions. You answer them
Mhm.
as quick as you can. You ready?
Yeah, yeah,
Cool.
sure.
What have I not asked you that you think I should ask?
Why do I look different than in my profile picture?
What the hell's going on with the beard, man?
Yeah, no, it's just like I probably put on like 30 kilos after that picture that the one that you see on LinkedIn, thanks to COVID.
Okay, wasn't gonna mention anything about it, but I mean, you asked, you asked. All right.
I mean, I do get people asking me like, okay, you look quite different in the profile. Are you the same guy? And it's just like, yeah, I'm the same guy. It's just like I put on like 30 kilos and got some beard game going on here.
Well, it doesn't show with the beard. It doesn't show, so that's fine. Which CEO or founding team do you look up to and why?
Basecamp. I really love the personal brand that those guys are building. I love the copywriting. Like if I could do like a boot camp, I would do like how to write a copy like a base camp, right?
Like
Those guys
Basecamp.
are amazing. Just check their homepage, check everything they do. They're great at copywriting. I like the Lemnist.
Yeah, big fan too.
Yeah, they really pulled off good with the LinkedIn, and I think that Jan, excuse me, like if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, he really built some strong personal brand on LinkedIn, and that's quite important. Like because people sometimes people buy from you just because of your personal branding. Like it really impacts. Like
Yeah.
if you're comparing your brand with the competitors, and then on one side you have this brand and which has better personal branding, you allow the founders, you'll always have more bias towards that tool. I know it sounds irrational, but it happens.
No, it does absolutely. Like in the ebook that I wrote on PLG sales, there's a whole chapter, a few pages on how Lemlist humanized the growth funnel and how they're
Mhm.
using relatability with the founders as a really strong growth technique. So I would agree with you 100%. And we're working with them. We're great. They're great. We love Lemlist.
Yeah.
All right. Third question: what's the most underrated tool, growth technique, or skill for sales, in your opinion? I know that you're not in sales, but
Yeah.
give it a try.
I would say that as a marketer, talking with your salespeople, ask them what kind of objections they're getting during the sales demos, and take all those objections. As a marketer, create some content so that you can
Yeah.
address those objections, give those back to your salespeople so that they can use it as a sales enablement content. Because I think that you, as a salesperson, you want to decrease the friction during the demos, and if somebody asks you some question, you need to explain it, but words will fly. And if you have some content you can show with them, if you have some visuals, it's always better. It builds trust more compared to just explaining me in a couple of sentences. So get those sales enablement content ready, deliver them to your salespeople so that they can do a better job.
Yeah, it's also the basis of product led growth, right? You want to build stuff that is scalable through either the product of you or your content, so that people can get self-serve and do it by themselves. Asbin is a great example. When he has an objection on sales or customer ticket, he either writes content or builds it into his tool so that people can solve it by themselves. So I think that's great advice. Last one: something you wish you knew when you were 20.
um, when I was 20, right? Again, like
Well,
it's
you're not that old, so it was
yeah,
only it
yeah.
was only 7 years ago. But like something you wish you knew when you started your career.
Something, okay. Importance of talking to customers. Like, I'm gonna say this all the time, but
Makes
I
sense.
wish I've done it in my first days of you know entering the startup scene. I wish I've done it. I wouldn't have done guest marketing. I would have done proper growth marketing. Just talk to them.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you, John. It was a really good conversation. I enjoyed it. I'm sure the listeners will enjoy it too. I would highly suggest people following you on LinkedIn, because the gold pieces of advice that you just gave, you give them on a regular basis on LinkedIn. So I'm going to add the link below. If people want to learn more about Optimonk, they can go to optimonk.com. And what's the best way to reach you, John?
The first of all, like, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed having this conversation. The best way of reaching out to me is from LinkedIn. I'm active like pretty much all the time, and my DMs are always open. I'm always happy to discuss more stuff on the marketing and growth.
Amazing. Thanks, John. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Thank you, man.
See ya.